Welcome to AI News. This is a series where my brother Drake and I try to uncover the latest, most urgent news on AI. We do our best to try to learn about AI while also teaching you guys and updating you on the insightful news around AI. So definitely check out Drake's channel, subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and also hit the bell here, subscribe if you aren't already, because this is going to be a series that goes between our two channels. If you want to see the first episode, it's over on Drake's channel. Again, this is the second episode, and you can catch the third one over on his channel again. We'll be back and forth. But with that, let's dive into the news for today. Drake, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, so 11 Labs recently had an update, and if you're not familiar with 11 Labs, it is a text-to-speech tool, so you can type in some text, and it has human-like voices. Now, these voices are so human-like, it almost gets a little scary. 11 Labs even offers voice cloning, so you can upload voice overviews of yourself. So you can upload videos and clips of you talking, and 11 Labs can actually clone your voice, and then you can type in some text, and it sounds like you when you play it back. But 11 Labs just had an update, and I would like to share that with everybody. It is called the 11 Labs Project Update. So introducing projects, you can create high-quality audiobooks in minutes. So this is going to be great for creators, authors, anybody doing any sort of text-to-speech. This is going to be amazing. So as you can see, this new update allows for creators, publishers, and independent authors to voice entire dialogue segments, news articles, and even audiobooks within minutes, all inside a single workflow. Now, this workflow is somewhat like a Google Doc. You can see all of your text, or maybe you have a book in this document-like file. And the reason this update came about was because many grappled with the stability issues and flow disruptions when generating that lengthier content in 11 Labs. 11 Labs wanted to kind of streamline it and make it a little bit easier to use, a little bit more accessible and stable when you're generating that long form speech to text, because they were running into some issues with the pausing. As you can see here, it says it lacked cohesion. They wanted to craft a smooth dialogue. So what 11 Labs did was it has this new little dashboard where you can actually upload your text-to-speech within different blocks. It looks a lot like Google Docs. And what you can do is you can highlight certain sections. As you can see right here, it allows you to highlight those certain sections in this page, and then you can choose the voice, adjust the voice settings, such as how long you're pausing in between certain segments. And I just think this is going to be huge, especially for authors when it comes to generating an audiobook. Audiobooks are becoming the future. Pretty much, if you want a book, you'll consider getting the audiobook because it's cheaper. You can just listen to it, whether you're driving, working, whatever. So this is going to be huge for authors, in my opinion. And as you can see, they have some clips here where they have whole audiobooks of Alice in Wonderland, Winnie the Pooh, and The Picture of Dorian Gray using this new 11 Labs feature. So if you want to go take a look at these, we'll leave a link to this article down in the description below. But the good thing about 11 Labs projects, you can actually change the voice in certain segments, as I was saying earlier. So for a book like Winnie the Pooh, you could have a Winnie the Pooh voice talking when he's actually talking. And then for another character in that book, in that audiobook, you could change the voice in 11 Labs for that certain segment. So it's going to make audiobooks a lot more interactive. And this is one I was super excited about.
Yeah, this will be cool. This will be cool to see. I've got an example I want to show of how
Right.
I've been using 11 Labs here, but also I wanted to quickly point out that this sort of thing could be used for dialogue like this. It could be used for a podcast type thing if they
Very
wanted
true.
to. It could be used for any sort of back and forth dialogue between people, and that's what makes this new update so amazing. Is it just makes that process streamlined, which is
Right. That
great, which
long
is what we're
form.
after.
The short form was always good. Like if you needed a paragraph and you wanted to choose a voice, that was always amazing. But now that the fact that they have long form content becoming a lot smoother, you can change the voice in certain segments. That's amazing.
Absolutely. Now let's take a look at a quick short form piece that I created. And this is a short on my YouTube channel, but it's just an example of how you can use 11 Labs voice generator to generate a realistic sounding voice. And fun fact, this video is actually generated 100% using AI video and voice. I used two softwares, HeyGen to create the video, and I used 11 Labs, which Drake just talked about in the news. So let's go ahead and give this a listen and see how realistic this really is.
The face, hand expressions, and even the voice is all AI generated. I used a combination of AI tools to pull this off. 11 Labs created the voice, and HeyGen created the custom avatar. What do you think? Is this stuff getting closer to replacing YouTubers like me?
So as you can see, the face is a bit jerky. It moves around a little bit weird at times, but if you are not a close observer, this could definitely pass for a real video, I think.
Oh,
What do
yeah.
you think, Drake?
Yeah, when you sent me that clip taking a video with your phone on the computer, I was amazed. It's just amazing to me how fast this stuff can progress in a matter of a couple months, because 11 Labs was okay probably about 4 months ago, I think, and it's just evolved so much. And even those apps where you can generate your own AI avatar, and it's doing the eyebrow motions, the blinking, the hand motions, all of that for you. It's evolving at a rapid pace, and I think eventually, is it going to be distinguishable from an actual person? That much I don't know, but I think it has to get to that point. I mean, they're already doing it with these deep fakes, but the fact
Well, that's
that
the trend. It just keeps getting better, right?
yeah, and it's becoming more accessible and easier to use for everyday people, that they can just sign up for a service and they can send back their AI video of them. It's amazing.
Yeah, I signed up, and within 3 days, I basically just signed up. They asked me to record some video of me talking in front of the camera right here on my set in 4K. And then they went and they wrapped that up and they turned it into that video puppet. So I can basically just enter any text and it will say it. Now I'm working on seeing if HeyGen can do the whole thing, not just the video, so that I don't have to take it over to 11 Labs and then combine the audio with the video. But once you have these all together, the exciting part is the technology is all out there. We just need to get all of these tools together to be able to really utilize them well. So
Right.
exciting times. And if you're a pioneer with this technology, I'm sure you can figure out how to wire this stuff up using like a make.com or a Zapier with like a Google Sheet or your Notion database to create content. So it's exciting for sure. I wanted to also pull up a story that's a little bit more mainstream. This is a big tech story. And we have Amazon developing further with their Alexa. Now, you know how Alexa has that super robotic voice and it just gives you super generic answers for the most part? Well, they're looking at turning Amazon's voice assistant into a tool that uses generative AI. Generative AI, the same sort of technology that they use for ChatGPT. So Alexa will be able to resume conversations without a wake word and respond more quickly. So it will also be able to learn user preferences, field follow-up questions, and change its tone based on the topic. So if it's talking about something that's somber or sad, it might sound a little bit more sad, or it might sound a little bit more angry, surprised, whatever it might be. So the voice is better, and also the type of conversation and the content of the conversation is getting better. So the company did not disclose when the updates will make their way into the products, but this is an update that's poised to launch to all of the Echo products dating back to 2014. So they did talk about it and demo it a little bit. Dave Limp, the senior VP over at Amazon, asked Alexa about his favorite college football team without ever stating the name. Limp said he previously told Alexa and it remembered. If his favorite team wins, Alexa responds joyfully, and if they lose, then Alexa will respond with empathy.
Wow.
So it's pretty neat. It's adapting its emotions or its emotional tone to the user. So when Limp said, Alexa, let's chat, it launched a special mode that allowed for a back and forth exchange on various topics. So this one is interesting too, this new feature of just getting rid of the wake word Alexa altogether. Alexa Let's Chat enables a conversation-like setup where you can talk back and forth with this. And they're even implementing this in cars. They've developed a partnership with BMW so that they can have conversational in-car voice assistants. So
Pretty amazing.
this is incredible. They're implementing it in their Fire TV as well. So say you wanted to see a show that is about something very specific or it's a very specific genre, you could ask this for recommendations on what show to watch on Amazon TV.
Cool.
So it's pretty impressive. They had stated they're not going to stop until it's basically as good or better than a Star Trek computer. So I think Amazon is they're poised to do great things. But Drake, you had another story about another tech leader. Do you want to
Yes.
take over here?
Yes, I do. We're going to be hopping on the topic of Google Bard because they recently had an update that kind of connects the entire Google ecosystem together with the large language model Google Bard. And I think this is quite amazing, the fact that you will be able to use this LLM and connect it to YouTube, Gmail, Google Maps, Google Flights, Google Hotels. I haven't heard anything about the calendar yet, but let me share this article so I can go a little bit more in depth on what I was reading and so you guys can see it for yourselves. So as you can see, Google Bard can now connect to your Google Apps and services. This is pretty amazing. I was super pumped when I saw this, even though I never use Google Bard. This is starting to kind of pull me in. Like maybe I want to eventually connect my calendar, my email, and everything else to Bard. Maybe it will be more useful that way and just more practical of a large language model. So you can use Bard alongside your Google Apps and services and easily double check its responses. Those were the big updates for this extensions update for Google Bard. As you can see, here's kind of the list of things that it can connect to right now. Google Drive, Docs, Maps, Flights, YouTube, Gmail, Hotels, and then this is that little double check feature up top here. So we already explained this, what it goes over and what it can connect to across multiple platforms with the LLM right within this LLM here, the Google Bard. So very cool. Another feature that they added, not the connecting to the Google ecosystem, but beside that is this double check your responses with previous Google articles or information that Google has gathered. So Bard will read these responses that it generates or that you type in, and it will evaluate whether there is content across the web to substantiate it. What that means is if there's false information, it will try to validate it with content that is also found on Google. It shows a nice little example right here. So the information in green, it says Google search found similar content like this. And with the information in orange, it said Google search found content that differs like this. So it's kind of double checking your responses to make sure that that you're being factual and that you're not spreading any false information. And I think this is great because I think it really dives into the ethics of AI. And they're kind of trying to mitigate those risks where people are spreading false information by just copying and pasting in an answer on a homework assignment or on the web for people to read. So it's kind of helping you out saying Google search found content that differs.
Yeah, this is nice. It sort of fixes the hallucination problem in a sense
Right.
because if it's back checking against Google search results, that's going to be probably a more truthful version than the LLM can always spit out because they're not only are they spitting out like the LLM's version, but it's also spitting out, okay, here's what humans, like real humans have said about this. What sites did it pull from? Okay, here are the sources. You can go check. So I really like that. That's interesting. How do you feel like this Google Bard introduction compares to the Amazon Echo announcement? Do you think that these two are which one's better? Which one's going to rival the other in a better way and succeed in the market?
It's tough for me to say because I feel like everybody has a Gmail, everybody uses Google Calendar. The Google ecosystem is so prevalent in everyday lives. People are always using Google Drive. Pretty much all the Google products have been widely used. YouTube, for example, as well. But you brought something up to me earlier when we were discussing this that I thought was quite interesting. The fact that Amazon has a position in the market where they have physical products in people's homes and they don't need to buy new products. All they have to do is update their software and then the AI is implemented into your existing products that you purchased back even in 2014, almost a decade ago. So it's really hard for me to say. I think if Google can keep this thing free and they don't offer any paid services in order to connect your Google ecosystem to Google Bard, then I think they could compete with Amazon, but it's kind of hard for me to say because it's almost like you have a virtual assistant in your home, sometimes even 2 or 3 of them. But what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. The whole hardware idea is where Apple and Amazon are really leading the way against these other big tech players in AI.
Right.
You look at Apple's Siri, and it's not very impressive. You look at Amazon's Alexa as it currently stands, and it's not very impressive. But the stuff they're talking about adding to these could really take them to the next level and build an even bigger moat around what they already have, which is hardware.
Right.
Amazon has the smart speakers and uh, what was the other one I was mentioning? Slipped
The
my mind.
Apple.
Apple. Yeah,
Apple
Apple
Home.
has
Yeah.
obvious. I mean, it's right here.
Yeah.
It's sitting in front of me. The phone.
Everybody's got
So
the iPhone.
these methods of already being able to communicate with this, and the fact that they're going to use these LLMs in a way that it's just going to improve their product, and it's probably just going to be an add-on. It's probably not going to be like a paid feature per se. I think
Right.
that that's going to give them a strategic advantage, and they'll also have the whole uh, data thing on lock. I think because Amazon has a lot of data about your shopping and you in general, and they might even have information on what temperature your house is set at. So
Right.
it's
I
very
don't.
interesting real world
True.
application.
I think it's kind of hard to compare them in some ways too, because I think you could use them both. I don't think it would be something where you only pick one. Maybe like physical stuff that you need, questions on the go. You turn to Alexa, you ask Alexa whatever you need. But if you're on the web, you're dealing with emails, it might just be smarter to use Google Bard. So if Google can somehow position themselves with their Google Homes that they have in a way to beat Amazon, which would be very, very difficult considering I think the number of Echo products purchased are much higher than Google Homes, if I had to take an educated guess. But yeah, I don't know if they're too comparable. I think they are comparable, but I think you have different use cases for each one, and I could see myself using them both and not really picking a side as well.
Yeah, that's a really good point. While these big tech titans are fighting for market share, we're just going to use the tools that are best for whatever they're best for. So
Right.
I think that people are ultimately going to live in a world where they're using multiple tools from different companies, and that's what we've already started doing with smaller companies like 11 Labs. Like we mentioned in the beginning of this video, they're like the best player for AI audio, so they're the one that we recommend and talk about. So it's definitely interesting to see the dynamics between the two. Now, I wanted to shift the conversation to a story that I came across on a new type of generative AI model. Typically, for AI image generation, they've used Stable Diffusion, which was introduced back in 2015. It's a way to create images. It's what Midjourney and Dolly 2 are using to create images based on a text prompt. They looked at an age-old physics formula and they basically turned that into an AI model based on the characteristics of that. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and dive into this article. So the physical process that powers a new type of generative AI. Let's dive into it. So this was created by, or at least proposed by Max Tegmark. Him and his team over at MIT were able to basically create a new type of generative AI model. Now, Tegmark believes that his physicist peers can make significant contributions to the science of AI, and he has made this his top research priority. One way physicists could help advance AI, he said, would be to replace the black box algorithms of neural networks whose workings are largely inscrutable. I suppose that means you can't read them or they're not understandable,
Yeah.
with well understood equations of physical processes. So what this is doing is it's trying to basically figure out how AI is coming to its conclusion better than the current models can.
Right.
So right now, the generative AI model that we mainly use for image generation is Stable Diffusion, as I mentioned, and this is based on a real-world process. It's a thermodynamic process, actually, and it's the same process that causes milk poured into a cup of coffee to spread uniformly.
This is
It first
sorry
emerged.
to interrupt, but this is the stable diffusion process. That's the process that causes the milk. That's the comparison there. The milk poured
Yeah,
in
like that's how
coffee.
Stable Diffusion is used in the or how diffusion, the mathematical idea of diffusion, is used in the real world, or
Okay.
represented in the real world.
Okay,
So
cool.
there's real world ways that we see this being used, or we see these patterns, and this is the same way that we've been able to implement this new model. So this is called the Poisson flow generative model that Tegmark and his team introduced. And early this year, they just released PFGM++, which is like an even more robust version of this model that can do more than just image generation. Currently, this is a private model. As far as I can tell, I haven't been able to see any sort of results, but it was very interesting to read about and hear how they think that this model is going to be better at some things than the current models are. For instance,
Right.
one of the things they talked about was how they could create more definite results with this model. So if you type something in for an image, you're going to get exactly what you typed.
Okay.
Not that Midjourney and these other models don't do that well. They're getting better every day, and they have workarounds for it. But their idea is to try to find a different mechanism that they can use to generate images using AI.
Right.
So the interesting thing about this, though, is they've got a physics model based on the Poisson. It's based on the Poisson formula, which was created by Simeon Poisson back in the 1880s.
Wow.
So when he created this, he created it as a way to. It was like a statistical probability emergence equation. So it's basically just to like figure out what your probabilities are with gambling. And now they're using it at MIT to create large language models.
It's
And
amazing. It's always amazing to me when all of these age-old formulas, these things that were developed long before long before we could have even thought of AI as an option, and computers before even those were developing. These formulas that we're starting to use today in order to create a text to image. It's amazing. I kind of think of it kind of like the beginning of artificial intelligence in a way. Just how the minds of some of these people work. It's amazing that they were developing these systems that could be applied to probabilities in gambling, and now that we can use those to pull in a new form of text to image generation. It's quite amazing.
well, the thing with this is like AI and these algorithms have been around for a while in some
Right.
capacity, and physicists have like, used them for a long time to predict things. It's just that now we're applying them to things that are more usable by the general public.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to share this article. It's a bit over my head, to be honest with you, because I am not a physicist, but I find it interesting that they're using a physical process to make this happen, like a physical real world process. It's not just code in a computer that somebody thought of, it's based on a physics equation. So
That is very
definitely
cool.
interesting to see those two lines crossing.
Yeah, that is very cool. And this article that I'm about to share also kind of goes over my head because I'm not too in depth into the medical field, but the general message of it is very important to just to making technology work for us instead of us always working for technology. I think it's important that we can leverage technology in order to help us live better. So this next article that I want to share relates to DeepMind's AI medical usage. So Google's DeepMind has a new software that they aren't currently sharing publicly. They're sharing some records publicly, but due to biosecurity, they can't share the full software. But DeepMind is actually using AI to pinpoint the causes of genetic disease. And as you can see, there's this little subdescription here that says, fresh from solving the protein structure challenge, Google's DeepMind learning outfit is moving on to the human genome. So this is going to be very important. As you can see, Google's DeepMind says it's trained in artificial intelligence that can predict which DNA variations in our genomes are likely to cause disease. The company says it has fine-tuned its protein model to predict which misspellings found in human DNA are safe to ignore and which are likely to cause disease. The new software is called Alpha Missense. So this software can have predictions within your DNA. This used to have to be done manually. Scientists would have to study this data, sifting through it, and that's a monumental task when we're talking about DNA. It's basically atoms, so small it's hard to even think about and see. But the goal of this is to find the root cause of rare disorders for faster diagnosis and developing life-saving treatments for some more complicated problems, because some people are born with these rare genetic diseases and it takes 10 years before they can get an answer on what's actually wrong with them. But AI is helping speed up the process. It's making for more efficient research, enhanced drug development, and it's also reducing healthcare costs, or it has the ability to reduce healthcare costs because they're not going to be wasting time fixing things that they think are right, which in reality they aren't actually right. So I thought that was a very interesting article to share. Another thing a little bit later in the article, it says here, one company, Generative Biomedicines, just raised $273 million to create antibodies, and a team of former meta engineers started Evolutionary Scale, which thinks AI can come up with programmable cells that seek out and destroy cancer. So this kind of ties into Google's DeepMind, where AI is now becoming prevalent, where it has been prevalent in the medical field, but it's becoming more so now than ever. And I think it's amazing. When we can make technology work for us, I think that's when we will truly start to improve, you know?
Yeah, that's what will make us better as a civilization. That's what will make AI kind of come out on the good side of things. We talk about the good versus the bad of AI all the time, and we try to see the silver lining, bring to you guys the news that is going to be informative, one, but also hopeful and maybe usable for you in your life. So, with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this episode of AI News. And if you guys want to stay tuned for future episodes of AI News, subscribe and hit the bell notification on both of our channels. Drake's channel will be the top link in the description. We'll also have the links to our articles below. And yeah, stick around for next week. It'll be over on Drake's channel. We're just going to be going back and forth. So we'll see you guys in the next one.
See you guys there.